Infidelity is not a recent phenomenon, but it seems to be more accepted and justified than ever. Social media, dating apps, and a culture focused on instant pleasure have led many people to view fidelity as relative rather than sacred. As a result, many households find themselves in crisis, marked by conflict, mistrust, and the imminent risk of separation. If this is your case, I want to tell you that restoration is possible if you make the serious decision to fight for your relationship with the Lord's help. And if you haven't yet faced this situation, let this message serve as a warning and a guide to strengthen your relationship before it's too late. The Bible clearly warns us about the consequences of unfaithfulness. Proverbs chapter 6, verse 32 says, "But he who commits adultery lacks understanding. He who does this corrupts his own soul." According to a study published in 2024, Thailand tops the list of countries with the highest infidelity rates, with 56% of men admitting to having been unfaithful. It is followed by Germany and Denmark. In Latin America, a survey conducted by the Glidden app in 2023 revealed that Brazil is the country with the highest rate of infidelity, followed by Colombia and Mexico. Argentina and Chile occupy 4th and 5th place, respectively. Main reasons for infidelity. The same Glidden survey identified the following motivations among respondents: sexual attraction, 39%, breaking a routine, 32%, fulfilling fantasies, 26%, not feeling comfortable with your partner, 3%. A 2024 study revealed that men are, in general, more unfaithful than women. According to the data, 23% of men admitted to cheating on their partners, compared to 16% of women. But what drives a person to be unfaithful? Let's look at the most common reasons. These data reflect the complexity of the infidelity phenomenon and how its prevalence can vary depending on cultural, generational, and technological factors. Now, we present the reasons that can lead to infidelity. While science offers its own perspective, we will analyze it in light of God's Word. Number 1. Lack of real commitment. One of the main factors that leads to infidelity is a lack of genuine commitment within the relationship. Many people begin a relationship or even a marriage without understanding the seriousness and sacrifice involved. In a society where relationships are often seen as fleeting or based on the emotion of the moment, true commitment has become rare. When difficulties arise, rather than facing and resolving them, those lacking a firm commitment look for an easy way out, finding in another person the attention or pleasure they should be cultivating within their relationship. This is largely due to the modern mindset of instant gratification, where perseverance and effort seem unnecessary in the face of seemingly more attractive options. Now, the lack of commitment often has its origins. Let's consider some of them. In first place, unrealistic expectations. Some people enter into a relationship with the idea that everything will be perfect and free of difficulties. When challenges arise, instead of working through them, they look for an alternative that will bring them an immediate sense of happiness. In second place, selfishness. Instead of seeing the relationship as a mutual giving, some people only think about what they can get. And when their needs are not met immediately, they look for someone else. In third place, lack of solid foundations. Relationships that begin based on emotion, physical attraction, or convenience, without a true foundation of love, respect, and firm principles, tend to be fragile in the face of difficulties. In fourth place, absence of biblical values. When a relationship is not based on principles such as fidelity, sacrificial love, and patience, it is easier to give in to the temptation of infidelity. Now, the answer to this problem lies in a change of mindset and a commitment based on solid principles. From a biblical perspective, love and faithfulness are daily decisions, not mere passing emotions. The Bible teaches that marriage is a sacred covenant, not a temporary contract. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 25 says, "Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her." This shows that true love involves sacrifice, patience, and commitment. A strong relationship with God gives us the capacity for genuine love and commitment. In Matthew chapter 6, verse 33, we also read, "But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. A person who puts God first will learn to value their relationship properly. Many relationships weaken because couples don't know how to communicate or resolve problems effectively. Instead of seeking solutions, they choose to escape. It's necessary to learn to speak honestly, express needs, and forgive. The Bible exhorts in Romans chapter 12, verse 2, "Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is the good and acceptable and perfect will of God." This means stopping seeing the relationship as something disposable and starting to see it as a long-term investment worth strengthening. It is also important to understand that a couple who prays together, studies the Word, and strives to strengthen their relationship will have a firm foundation against temptation. Instead of looking outside for what is missing, the couple should strive to build it within the marriage. Lack of real commitment is one of the deepest reasons for infidelity, but it's not irreversible. With a change of perspective, a focus on God, and a firm decision to work on the relationship, it is possible to restore and strengthen commitment, transforming marriage or courtship into a solid and blessed union. Number 2, sexual problems. Problems in marital intimacy can become one of the main causes of frustration and estrangement between spouses. Lack of communication about this aspect of the relationship can lead to feelings of dissatisfaction, resentment, and even the temptation to seek fulfillment outside the marriage. To better understand this problem and find effective solutions, it is necessary to analyze its causes, consequences, and strategies to strengthen intimate life as a couple. In first place, lack of communication. Many couples don't openly discuss their desires, needs, and expectations in intimacy, which can lead to misunderstandings and frustration. As therapist John Gottman points out, happy couples are those who can speak honestly about their feelings and desires without fear of judgment or rejection. For example, Andres and Laura, married for 5 years, face problems in their intimate life. Laura, exhausted by work, avoids intimacy without explaining why, while Andres feels rejected and distances himself. Without speaking, they both assume the worst, creating resentment. If they applied John Gottman's advice, they could express their feelings without fear, understanding that the problem is not disinterest, but exhaustion. With open communication, they could find solutions and strengthen their relationship. In second place, differences in sexual desire. It is common for one spouse to have greater desire than the other, which can cause frustration for both parties. Dr. Esther Perel, psychotherapist and author of The Couple's Dilemma, explains that routine and lack of novelty can affect desire and attraction within a marriage. For example, Carlos and Sofia have been married for several years, but while Carlos feels the need for more intimacy, Sofia prefers spaces of emotional connection before physical encounters. This creates frustration for both. Carlos feels rejected, and Sofia feels pressured. Without addressing the issue, the distance grows. If you followed Esther Perel's advice, you could renew your relationship with creativity, breaking out of routine and finding a balance that respects both of your needs. In third place, stress and fatigue. Worries about work, parenting, and daily responsibilities can diminish your energy and desire to be intimate with your partner. According to Dr. Kevin Lehman, chronic fatigue is one of the greatest enemies of marital intimacy. For example, Marcos and Elena, exhausted by work and children, neglect their privacy. He feels distant while she just wants to rest. In fourth place, psychological and emotional factors. Anxiety, depression, and low self-esteem can affect interest and satisfaction in intimate life. Dr. Laura Berman, a couples therapy specialist, emphasizes that a fulfilling sexual relationship depends not only on the body, but also on the emotional state of both partners. For example, Javier, suffering from work-related stress, has lost interest in intimacy, which makes his wife, Clara, feel rejected. Unbeknownst to him, Javier's anxiety is affecting their relationship. In fifth place, poor sexual beliefs or education. Some people grow up with taboos or misconceptions about intimacy, which can make it difficult to have a healthy and fulfilling relationship in marriage. For example, Anna grew up with the idea that talking about intimacy was inappropriate, so she struggles to express her needs to her husband Miguel. This creates frustration and distance between them. If they learned about the topic together and talked openly, they could strengthen their relationship and enjoy a more fulfilling intimacy. However, if these issues are not addressed, serious consequences for the relationship can arise, such as, in first place, emotional distancing. Physical intimacy is a bridge to emotional connection. When it weakens, the emotional bond is also affected. In second place, infidelity. Although not justified, dissatisfaction with intimacy can lead one spouse to seek pleasure outside the marriage, whether through infidelity, pornography, or emotional distancing. A lack of physical and emotional connection can lead to frustration, resentment, and feelings of rejection, which weaken commitment and open the door to external temptations. In third place, increased conflict. Accumulated tensions can lead to constant arguments and more difficult coexistence. Now we present the solutions to improve intimacy in marriage. In first place, encourage open communication. Talking honestly about expectations, desires, and concerns in intimacy strengthens the relationship. Practicing active listening and expressing feelings without blaming the other person is key. In second place, prioritize time together. Creating moments of connection outside of intimacy, such as romantic dates, trips, or simply time alone without distractions, helps strengthen the emotional bond and keep the attraction alive. In third place, it is important to break the routine, as monotony can extinguish passion in a marriage. Exploring new ways to connect, being creative, and seeking out special moments together can revitalize your intimate life. However, everything must be done with respect, love, and in the fear of God, remembering that marital intimacy is a sacred gift. In fourth place, take care of your physical and mental health. Maintaining a healthy lifestyle, including exercise, good nutrition, and adequate rest, contributes to well-being and sexual desire. In fifth place, seek professional support. If problems persist, consulting a couples therapist or marriage counselor can be an effective solution. Professionals like John Gottman and Esther Perel have shown that couples who seek help can transform their relationship. In sixth place, strengthen the spiritual bond. For Christian couples, strengthening their relationship with God through prayer and Bible study can be a fundamental pillar for a fulfilling married life. The Bible teaches in 1 Corinthians chapter 7 verses 3-5, "Let the husband fulfill his duty to his wife, and likewise the wife to her husband." The wife does not have authority over her own body, but the husband does. Nor does the husband have authority over his own body, but the wife. Do not deprive one another, except by mutual consent for a time, that you may devote yourselves to prayer, and come together again, so that Satan will not tempt you because of your incontinence. Therefore, intimacy problems should not be ignored or taken lightly. The key to overcoming them lies in communication, commitment, and the willingness of both partners to strengthen their relationship. With love, patience, and appropriate strategies, it is possible to restore and enrich intimate life in marriage. Number 3, neglect in the relationship. Marriage isn't something that is sustained by inertia. It needs to be constantly cultivated and strengthened. However, over time, many couples fall into a rut and stop putting effort into their relationship. Work stress, parenting, financial worries, and daily responsibilities can cause time together to dwindle and displays of affection to become less frequent. When this happens, one or both partners may begin to feel that the relationship has lost its essence. A feeling of emptiness, loneliness, or disinterest may arise, opening the door to dissatisfaction. As Pastor John Piper warns, marriage is not on autopilot. If you don't work on it, it inevitably falls apart. A lack of attention and care in the relationship can lead to several consequences. Emotional distancing. The couple stops sharing thoughts, feelings, and concerns, weakening the connection between them. In first place, lack of affection. Affectionate gestures such as hugs, kisses, and words of affirmation are reduced or disappear, which can make one partner feel unappreciated. For example, Pedro used to surprise Laura with unexpected hugs and kind words, but over time he stopped doing so. Laura began to feel ignored and unappreciated, which affected her emotional connection with him. In second place, decreased communication. When couples stop talking and sharing their thoughts and emotions, the emotional connection weakens. If a husband shows no interest in listening to his wife, she may feel ignored and alone, which leads to frustration and increases the risk of infidelity. For example, Mailson would come home from work exhausted, and instead of talking to Sophia about his day, he would get distracted on his phone. Sophia tried to share her worries with him, but he barely paid attention. Over time, she stopped trying and began to feel lonely and disconnected from her husband. In third place, seeking attention from another person. If a spouse feels ignored or rejected, he or she may become vulnerable to the temptation to seek understanding and affection outside the marriage. As Dr. Gary Chapman points out, if a person doesn't receive love from their spouse, sooner or later they will begin to look for it elsewhere. This situation can lead to emotional or physical infidelity. In many cases, cheating doesn't begin with a premeditated intention, but rather with a friendship that, due to the lack of attention at home, develops into a deeper connection. A simple gesture of interest or appreciation from another person can become the spark that ignites the desire to feel loved again. Now, when one of the spouses stops receiving attention, affection, and validation in the marriage, his or her heart becomes vulnerable. The enemy takes advantage of these cracks to plant thoughts like, "He doesn't care about me anymore," "He never listens to me," or "I'm just a burden at home." These feelings can fuel the idea that another person can offer what's missing in the marriage. The Bible warns about this danger in Proverbs chapter 5, verses 3 and 4. "For the lips of a strange woman drop honey, and his mouth is smoother than oil, but his end is bitter as wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword." This illustrates how temptation may seem appealing at first, but ends up causing pain and destruction. The same thing happens when a husband or wife falls into the trap of infidelity due to a lack of care in the marital relationship. Neglect in marriage doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow, silent process that, if left unchecked, can lead to devastating consequences. Therefore, it is essential to recognize the signs of distancing and take action before the problem worsens. Now, we present this situation with its solution in light of the Bible. God established marriage as a relationship of love, companionship, and fidelity. However, neglect can affect even those with a strong commitment to their faith, such as pastors, who often become so involved in their ministry that they neglect their wives. To prevent a relationship from becoming cold and to strengthen the marital union, it is essential to apply biblical principles that renew love and connection between spouses. In first place, invest in quality time. The Bible teaches the importance of fellowship in marriage. Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 9 says, "Enjoy life with the woman you love, all the days of your life of vanity that are given to you under the sun, all the days of your vanity. For this is your portion in life, and in your labor at which you toil under the sun." It's important to prioritize time together, whether it's meaningful conversations, outings, recreational activities, or intimate moments. In second place, express love daily. Small gestures can make a difference. Scripture says in Ephesians chapter 5, verse 25, "Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her." Love should be demonstrated through actions, words of affirmation, thoughtful gestures, and mutual service. In third place, open and honest communication. Lack of communication is one of the main causes of estrangement. In Colossians chapter 3, verse 13, we are exhorted, "Bear with one another and forgiving one another, if any of you has a grievance against someone. Just as Christ forgave you, so you also must forgive." Talking transparently about needs, emotions, and expectations builds trust and prevents resentment. In fourth place, pray together. Prayer is a powerful tool for maintaining unity in marriage. Matthew chapter 18, verse 19 reminds us, Again, I say to you, if two of you agree on earth concerning anything they ask, it will be done for them by my Father in heaven. When spouses pray together, they invite God to strengthen their relationship and guide them in love. In fifth place, set clear boundaries with others. Avoiding overly close relationships with people of the opposite sex helps prevent temptation. If someone flirts, makes inappropriate calls, gives you flirtatious glances, or persistently asks you out or drives you, it's critical to end the situation immediately. In Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23, he advises, "Above all else, guard your heart, for out of it flows the issues of life." Taking care of your heart is essential to prevent dissatisfaction or temptation from destroying your marriage. Remember, marriage commitment is not just a promise between two people, but a covenant before God that must be honored with fidelity and constant love. Therefore, love is not sustained by itself. It requires dedication, effort, and daily commitment. When a couple stops nurturing their relationship, one spouse can become vulnerable to temptation and seek out what they don't receive at home. However, the Bible offers us clear solutions. Spend time together, show love, communicate openly, pray, set healthy boundaries, and remember the sacred covenant of marriage. A strong marriage is not one that never faces difficulties, but one that, with God's help, constantly works to strengthen its union and honor the sacred commitment it made to one another. Number 4, lack of self-control and weakness in the face of temptation. Self-control is essential for fidelity in marriage, but many people fail to set healthy boundaries in their relationships. They allow inappropriate conversations, flirting, one-on-one encounters with someone of the opposite sex, or deep emotional ties outside of marriage. Little by little, these actions create an inappropriate connection that can lead to infidelity. The Bible warns against the danger of playing into temptation in Proverbs chapter 6, verse 27. Can a man take fire into his bosom and his clothes not be burned? Making it clear that those who do not set limits will end up burning. Pastor John MacArthur points out, sin doesn't just happen, it develops in small, seemingly harmless compromises that, over time, open the door to moral decline. Infidelity doesn't begin in the bedroom, but in the mind and heart, when a person indulges in thoughts and behaviors that weaken their commitment to their spouse. Now, a lack of self-control in marriage can have serious consequences. In first place, weakening of the marital relationship. When a spouse invests their time and attention in another person, communication and intimacy with their partner are affected. In second place, greater exposure to temptation. Opening the door to compromising interactions increases vulnerability to sin. As Pastor Paul Washer says, if you feed the flesh with small allowances, don't be surprised when it ends up devouring you. In third place, spiritual deterioration. Lack of self-control and infidelity not only damage marriage, but also affect the relationship with God, causing guilt, spiritual separation, and, in many cases, a hardening of the heart. God calls us to live holy lives, to exercise self-control, and to avoid any situation that compromises our faithfulness. We must flee temptation. In 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 22, we are exhorted, "Flee also youthful lusts," which implies moving away from any circumstance that could weaken our integrity. It's not about resisting temptation, but avoiding it altogether. Billy Graham used to say, "It's easier to avoid temptation than to resist it." Seek the way out that God provides. In 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 13 reminds us that no temptation has overtaken you except what is common to mankind. But God is faithful, who will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you are able, but with the temptation will also make the way of escape, that you may be able to endure it. This means that we are never forced to compromise. There is always an alternative to honor God. A believer must be prudent in his interpersonal relationships. It is not wise to have deep emotional conversations with members of the opposite sex, accept invitations to go out privately, share moments alone, or tolerate advances from someone other than your spouse. It's important to maintain transparency with your spouse. Don't hide messages, conversations, or interactions with third parties. A strong marriage is built on mutual trust, and we can put aside spiritual strengthening through prayer and the study of the Word. We can resist temptation. In Psalm 119, verse 11, we are reminded, "I have hidden your word in my heart, that I might not sin against you." Charles Spurgeon said, "When the Bible fills our minds, sin loses its hold on us." Pastor John Piper warns, "Sin always promises more than it can deliver and costs you more than you are willing to pay." Fidelity in marriage not only involves avoiding sin, but also living in holiness and commitment to God and one's spouse, protecting the home from any destructive influence. Number 5, emotional dissatisfaction. Human beings have an innate need to be loved, valued, and heard. When a person feels ignored or emotionally neglected in their marriage, they may experience a void that they seek to fill in some way. Many times, this begins with seemingly harmless conversations with someone outside the marriage. However, over time, these conversations can develop into a deeper emotional connection that jeopardizes marital fidelity. The Bible warns us about the importance of guarding our heart, for it is the source of our decisions and emotions. When the heart is wounded or dissatisfied, it is more vulnerable to the temptation to seek attention and comfort from another person. Pastor Tim Keller warns, "Emotional infidelity is dangerous because it thrives in secret. It masquerades as friendship and support, but in reality, it weakens the marriage bond. What begins as a casual conversation can evolve into a secret relationship that breaks trust and derails the commitment of marriage. The more emotionally invested one is in another person, the more the relationship with one's spouse cools. Deep emotional connections can awaken romantic feelings and eventually lead to betrayal. Dishonesty and deception affect the spiritual relationship, as God calls for purity in marriage. The solution to this problem is not to seek validation from another person, but to strengthen the marriage and apply biblical principles that restore the relationship. The lack of sincere dialogue is one of the main causes of estrangement. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 26 exhorts, "Be angry and do not sin. Do not let the sun go down while you are angry." Instead of allowing resentment to fester, spouses should discuss their emotional needs and concerns. A strong marriage requires dedication and attention. This involves planning moments together, sharing interests, and strengthening the emotional bond. If a friendship begins to generate an emotional connection that competes with the marriage, it's necessary to step back. Prudence and wisdom should guide our interactions. Pastor John Piper notes, "Marriage is a representation of Christ's love for his church. We must strive to keep it holy, pure, and strong." The best way to avoid emotional infidelity is to nurture love and commitment within marriage, seeking God's wisdom to strengthen the relationship. Dear listeners, let me ask you a sincere question. How is your marriage? Often, when brothers and sisters in the faith are asked, even pastors respond enthusiastically about their spiritual life. Blessed, prosperous, and victorious. However, if you ask them about their marriage, their expression changes. They lower their gaze, and they avoid answering. This brings us to a troubling reality. Many believers strive to grow spiritually, but neglect their relationship with their spouse. It's time to get serious about our faith. As Christian theologian Christian Paz rightly says, "Put your house in order." We can't pretend our spiritual life is in order if there is indifference, pain, and distance at home. Let's reflect. Will you continue in the same situation? How much longer can your marriage last before it completely collapses? Don't throw your relationship away. Value your spouse, care for them, and strive to strengthen the bond that God designed to be a blessing, not a burden. We live in a society that has distorted the concept of marriage and justifies infidelity. Movies, music, and social media glorify deception, portraying betrayal as something exciting and without consequences. In some social circles, the idea is even promoted that monogamy is outdated and that everyone should pursue their own happiness, regardless of the harm it causes to their family. But what does God's word say about this? From the beginning, God established marriage as a sacred and exclusive relationship. In Genesis chapter 2, verse 24, we are told, "Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall become one flesh." This union is neither temporary nor superficial. It is a spiritual, emotional, and physical pact that requires commitment and effort. When a person neglects their marriage, they open the door to the enemy to destroy what God has joined together. Spouses are urged not to deny each other and to meet each other's needs with love and respect. so as not to give rise to temptation. Pastor John MacArthur warns, Christian marriage is a reflection of Christ's love for his church. Therefore, to neglect it is to undermine the very image of the gospel. If we have neglected our spouse, the solution is not to justify distancing ourselves or to seek solace outside the home. The answer lies in returning to the principles of the Bible, restoring communication, cultivating intimacy, demonstrating love through actions, and prioritizing the marriage relationship above all other activities or commitments. In Ephesians chapter 5, verse 25, we are reminded, "Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her." Don't let neglect and indifference destroy your marriage. Decide today to put into practice the love, respect, and fidelity that God commands. Instead of following the world's model, let us follow Christ's model, a sacrificial, unwavering, and eternal love. And so we come to the end of this video. We hope this message has been edifying and thought-provoking for your life. In a world where the values of marriage and fidelity are constantly under attack, it is crucial to remember the importance of strengthening our relationships with love, commitment, and biblical principles. We encourage you to share this content with your friends and family, so they too may be blessed and find guidance in their journey. Don't forget to subscribe for more life-enhancing teachings. See you in the next video. God bless.